some of the other photographers that have worked for us and look at the documentary photography that they have turned in. And so he's researching and he's looking at all the how the other photographers' styles and what they captured. Like I said, Dorothea Lange and Walker Evans. He's looking at their photographs. And then in the back of the building, he sees this woman. Excuse me. Anyway, so he sees this woman. So his boss, Roy Stryker, tells him, go strike up a conversation with her. See what you can get to know about her. So we're going to look, before I tell you what her story is, what information you can garner by yourself. So looking at this photograph, somebody tell me, what time of day do you think this is? Is it daytime or nighttime? And what's going on?
More in the nighttime.
Nighttime? What's going on?
It looks like she
might be going to work.
Looks like she's going to work. And what else do you see?
We see her, what I'm assuming are her children.
Okay.
At the top of the stairs.
Okay. So, how about here? Use your artist eyeballs and look carefully at this photo. Look at the composition of it and tell me what you see.
The front door is open.
Okay, the front door is open. That's good. You're looking deep into the photo. What about what's closer to the front?
The two children closest to us are eating something.
All right. What else?
A picture of her and her husband, I think.
Very good. Who do you think is in the mirror?
The daughter.
Maybe. Okay.
The eldest, yeah.
So in this photograph, really, we are seeing Ella Watson, 4 children, and then a photograph of her and her husband. We think it could be her parents. It could be it's someone special to her. What about here? What's going on?
It looks like she's reading to the children before going to sleep, but I think it's the Bible.
That's a good assumption. Other than the fact that it says Holy Bible on there, what in this photograph would lead you to believe, other than the Bible, what would lead you to believe that she is she's very involved in her faith?
There's a picture of Jesus on the wall.
The calendar and the picture of the Messiah on the wall over the bed, and also possibly the picture in the hallway. So you think she's reading the Bible to all of her children?
I think so.
Yes.
So when you're looking at this photograph, another thing I want you to notice is how many beds do you see in this room? 2. And then the oldest daughter is hanging out in the hallway because there's not room for her in here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is kind of the first one, but I want you to pay particular attention to how Ella Watson looks in her clothing. So when you compare the clothing that she has on to this, what do you see? There's that one. Here's this one.
Her clothing in this photo looks very
Before you say that, Devin, look at it again. Look at what she's got on in this one, and look at this one.
She's very formal in that photo, in the first photo we saw.
Okay, so anybody else? Anybody have a different answer?
I think my screen is stuck.
Okay. You may have, can you refresh it? Okay, so I have a lot of people I haven't heard from yet. Let me call on somebody that I haven't heard from, because I'm hearing from Devin and Ben and Dionysia and nobody else. So, Riley, what's your
Yes.
answer?
About her outfit?
Yes, when you look at her,
I feel like she was wearing the same outfit in the first picture because of the skirt bottoms.
very good. So, well, I'll show you again. So her blouse is white with black polka dots, and there's a reason why I'm pointing out her clothing. And her skirt is black with white polka dots. So, oops, go back one more. There it is again. Same blouse, same skirt. Let's look at the next photo. Same blouse, same skirt.
Just looks like she's wearing an apron on top of it.
Exactly. So, if the group of photos that I have shown you so far tell a story, what story do you think is telling about her?
Like a day in the life.
Very good. Thank you, Riley. So, let me ask somebody else some questions. Kanaji, are you here, Kanaji?
Yes, I'm here.
So, Kanaji, when you were looking at Ella Watson, and we now know this is a story about a day in her life. So, what do you think is going on in this? What time of day would this be, do you think?
I think it's like noon or probably like night.
Okay.
Nighttime.
Why do you think it's nighttime?
Because I don't see much light coming through.
Okay. What else? Look at the children.
The children are sleeping.
Or they're laying down, right? So, I'm going to go back for a minute. Let's say this is Ella Watson. First thing in the morning, right? She's dressed up. She's got her hat on. Her children are in the doorway. She's off to work. And then here we go. She gets home late in the afternoon. And she's taking care of the children. She's fed them. And she's taking care of them. Now she's reading to them because it's time to go to bed, right? So here it is. But look at her face. What does her face tell you about her?
She's done a lot inside this one day.
She what?
She's done a lot inside this one day.
Okay, that's a good answer. DJ, what would you say? Oh, DJ, I forget. Can you scream it, DJ? Because I can't hear you.
I said I can't see.
Oh, all right. So, Adelia, what would you say?
She looks exhausted or tired after a long day.
Exactly. She looks exhausted. She looks like I do at the end of every day. Well, she looks like I do when I get up in the morning and at the end of every day. Okay, so here again, and this is not a very, it's not a very good photograph, but here is the American Gothic photo. This was the very first photograph that Gordon Parks ever took of her, and then he got to know her. So I want you to pay attention to this. Someone tell me what they know about war bonds? If anybody knows. If you don't know, it's okay. Be awkward and admit you don't know. But if somebody does know, I want you to answer. Let me see. I'm going to make it awkward. Eliza, what do you know about it?
You said about war bonds, right?
Yes.
I know they were using the war for like financial purposes. Like if you were financially not well off, you have to get a war bond.
Okay.
Or no, support the war.
So, no, and I think that's great that you know that. I'm so glad I called on the right person for this question. So, when you think about war bonds and you look at this photograph of Ella Watson, what do you think? Look at everything going on in the photo and tell me what you think. It doesn't have to be the right answer.
Is there like husband possibly at war?
No, but that might be a good assumption, but that's not it. Let me see. Go ahead.
She might be like a custodian or janitor at a
Okay.
government building.
Okay. So, Sam, was that you that said that?
Perhaps.
Anybody else? Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next photograph, I think, if there's one more. Here's another one. So, compared to the last photograph and this photograph, does this actually firm up your idea that she is doing custodial work?
Yes.
Yes. So here's the story I'm going to tell you about Ella Watson. This was, like I said, this was a photo essay. This is by no means all the photographs that he took of her. But here is the story. Actually, let me quit sharing for a minute. Here's the story. So the night that he is at work and Roy Stryker tells him, go start up a conversation with this woman. It was Ella Watson. And so she proceeds to tell him this tale full of tragedy, of things that had happened to her. And here's what happened to her. When she was, I believe, 15, her mother died. Her father had been lynched when she was a young girl. And her mother died when she was 15. But she went on and she finished high school. And then right after high school, she married her high school sweetheart. Shortly after that, she became pregnant and she had their first daughter. And then not long after that, she became pregnant again. And when she was pregnant with their second daughter, 2 weeks before their second daughter was born, her husband was shot accidentally. He was shot and he died. So here she was, this educated African-American woman, single with 2 daughters to raise. So she's going along and she's raising her daughters. By the time her second daughter is 18, she has 2 illegitimate children. And then by the time her second daughter reaches the age of 19, she's dead. So I don't recall if it said anything about her other daughter. But anyway, so here is Ella Watson now. She's this black woman and she's working, and all of a sudden, not only did she already raise her daughters, but now she's raising her grandchildren. So Ella Watson works for the federal government in Washington, D.C. She has a great job during the day as a stenographer. Who knows what a stenographer is?
Isn't it that like they were like the human calculators or something?
Yes. It's the people you see in court typing on those little tiny machines. That's a stenographer. So she has this great job working for the federal government, right? As a stenographer. But her grand salary for the year was a smidgen over $1,000 for a whole year. Now, granted, the economy was different back then than it is now, but think about it. Think about your parents. Do you think they could live off $1,000 a month with you to raise? In 1 month, do you think $1,000 would be sufficient?
No.
No.
So how about a year? And then you have 4 children to raise. Because in the one photograph that I showed you where I had the 3 little children and then the older girl was not her daughter. The older girl was adopted. So she adopted this girl and then she has her 3 grandchildren. So she's raising all 4 of them. But here's the gist of this. She makes a grand total of $1,000 a year for her stenographer job, which she's educated for. But then she has to also clean at night to make ends meet. But here is where the injustice comes in. And this is why Ella Watson was so important and why this photo essay was important. The reason why is because Ella Watson was working as a stenographer during the day and a custodian at night, but she started at the same time with the same education as a white woman. The last photo that I showed you where she's sweeping the white woman's office. So the white woman that has the same education and started at the same time as Ella Watson did, now has an office that Ella Watson has to clean. Doesn't that just make you mad as all get out?
Yes.
It makes me mad. It makes me so angry. Like, who made this decision? Anybody else? Raise your cartoon hand if it makes you angry.
Insert invisible cartoon hands here.
Yeah, your invisible cartoon hands. So, only 4 people out of all of you?
It took me a while to figure out how to raise my hand.
That's okay. Look how long it took me to figure out how to share my screen. It's okay. So anyway, but that is, like I said, I only showed you a small portion of the photo essay. But that's the story that Gordon Parks was trying to tell about Ella Watson. And this is where his camera became his weapon, because Gordon Parks was conducive also in the civil rights movement. And so all these photographs that he took during the Depression era focused on the living conditions of African Americans in Washington, D.C. So, but his photograph of her, the first photograph he took, American Gothic, that's what put his name on the map. Because in the photograph, he's saying, again, Grant Woods, here's your idea of the perfect America. And it might be perfect, but here is the reality of what's really going on down in the roots of this nation. And so when you think about those things, his photographs of how African Americans were living, and it was just, he was using Washington, D.C., because that was his home base. But this was an example of how African Americans were having to live and how they were being treated all over the United States. It wasn't just in Washington, D.C. But also remember, this was right on the heels of the Depression. So just before that, the Harlem Renaissance had been going on. So Gordon Parks came in contact